For most of us, taxes are the biggest expense in our business that we never really pay attention to. Entrepreneurs, especially when we come into making money, actually having a positive net income and some positive cash flow, we often think the only tool we have is to spend money to get a tax deduction. And while that's true to a point, there are some ways to save taxes that have nothing to do with how you spend your money during the year. And hey, how are you? We're coming up on tax time, folks, our favorite time of the year now, which actually lasts from like March through October is the period of time where we can file those tax returns for 2022. So even though the year is over, what are some of the things we can do to prepare for and maybe save money on our taxes? Well, the first answer I'm going to have for you is it's for the most part a little too late to save money on your taxes, with a couple of exceptions for 2022 tax returns. But you can save money on your taxes for 2023. And the best way that you can do that, the very best way you can do that, is to know what you think you're going to make this year and share that information with your tax accountant and get some really good ideas on how to minimize the tax impact. Because as entrepreneurs, especially when we come into making money, actually having a positive net income and some positive cash flow, we often think the only tool we have is to spend money to get a tax deduction. And while that's true to a point, there are some ways to save taxes that have nothing to do with how you spend your money during the year. And I would advise you definitely to have a way to forecast what you're going to be making for the year. With every one of my clients and with everybody in our Profit Map Academy, we do this right at the beginning of the year because I want them by the end of January, end of February, to have a pretty good eyeball on what their net income is going to look like in December for two reasons. One, because it saves a lot of money. And it saves a lot of money, I should say, for one reason with two results. It saves a lot of money because, first of all, we know right off the bat when we tell our tax accountant, I think my net income is going to be $100,000 this year in my business. Then the tax accountant can tell you, hey, you need to start paying a little bit of tax this quarter, a little bit of tax next quarter, and a little bit of tax the next quarter. And the reason that's so important is there's a point at which you start making money where it's not okay to wait until next April to make your first tax payment for the current year. And only a tax provider is going to be able to tell you that, or a really good tax package will do that for you as well. But you really want to know that. So big money saving is to avoid penalties from the IRS because they're crazy. They hit you with interest and they hit you with penalties, and it accumulates. So a lot of times you'll have a tax debt and the majority of it is interest and penalties. Like you may have had some tiny thing, like maybe you had to pay, I don't know, $25,000 in taxes, and because you didn't pay 5 of it in the first quarter and 5 of it in the third quarter of last year, there's a penalty on $10,000 of it that adds up to, $1,000, which is just crazy. And it's so easy to avoid. It's easy to avoid by taking a look down the road, make a forecast for what you think you're going to make this year. Now, in working with your tax accountant during the whole year, go ahead and update that with him or her on a regular basis. So when I get to the second quarter with my clients, we go, hey, do we still feel like this is the number we're going to make? Cool. Let's call our tax accountant and tell them this is still the number we're going to be making. Is there anything we should be doing? And they'll pick up some things like, hey, yeah, you're taking a bunch of money out of the business for owner's draw. Coming such and such a date, you ought to switch that over to an actual salary or something like that. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of tax practice, but I do know that there are a lot of things other than just spend money that tax accountants will tell you on how to help minimize your tax bill. For example, if you're going to save money anyway, they'll tell you what sort of thing to save it in that will minimize your tax bill for this year. So lots of opportunity there to save money, but in order to do that, you need to know what you're going to be making in the year, and you need to tell somebody who can help you do some planning around that. So that's thing number one. The second thing that it does for you is help you know in advance really where you might have some opportunities to spend different money. So let me give you an example. Say you're running a program all year this year, and you're going to make $100,000 and you're going to spend $50,000 to run the program, okay? At the end of the year, you've got somebody who comes up to you and says, hey, you're going to run this same program next year? Yes, I am. Okay, do you want to prepay me for next year's program? You can do that. There is nothing illegal, unethical, or worrisome about it. But the only way you're going to know if you can afford that, if you have that cash to actually make that agreement, is if you've created a forecast for the year. And this is why I come at you as a CFO talking to you about taxes, because taxes are the biggest expense in your business. There are some exceptions, but for most of us, taxes are the biggest expense in our business that we never really pay attention to. And here I'm saying it's the biggest expense in your business for 2023. So we should be thinking about it right now for this year. We shouldn't wait till January 1st of 2024 to think about it. That would be like delaying thinking about marketing expense until after we've spent it. Because once you get to January 1st, you can't do anything about it, right? So that's how I want you to think about your tax bill as a manageable expense. But the only way you can manage it is to know what it's going to be. And the only way you can know what it's going to be is to know how your business is going to perform. Now, you get a whole bunch of other advantages from knowing how your business is going to perform, because if you set up a forecast, you know what you're expecting of yourself and of your team and of your business every single month. And then you get all the extra added benefits of being able to compare what's really happening to what you've put in that forecast. So that's a big advantage. So answering the question that is, how do I best prepare for and save money on my taxes, is be a year ahead of them. Be a year ahead of them with a forecast. Now, if it's too late for that now for 2022, you're only seeing this now, it's only really kind of hit that, oh my gosh, yeah, that really makes sense, and you're dealing with 2022, you might not be able to make a lot of changes right now that will affect it. So my only suggestion there is make sure that you've captured everything that should be a business expense, and that you're giving that to whoever's preparing your return, or you're including it when you do your return. And by everything that could really be a business expense, I mean things like if you bought a computer this year and you used it for your business, that's a business expense. If you took your team to dinner this year, that's a business expense. If you had coaching from someone on how to do better marketing, that's a business expense. So just in case you still might be charging some stuff on your personal card and bank account that you might be able to count as business expenses, go through those. Make sure that you're not missing anything. That's the only advice I would have on how to save money on your 2022 taxes. Make sure you're counting everything in. But here's the thing. It's going to be January 1st, 2024 before we know it. And I've just given you the formula for getting there fully prepared and minimizing your taxes as much as possible. And go through it real quick here one more time. Number one, forecast what you think you're going to make in the year. Number two, tell your tax accountant, or put it in a tax program and see what it generates, so that you can find out if you owe any taxes during the year for 2023 well ahead of time, and any other changes you can make that might help minimize that tax bill for you. Have a great day. Have an awesome tax season, but even more importantly, let's get ready for next year's taxes. I hope that video was helpful, and I hope you subscribe to my channel for more information on finances in your business.